evening, everybody. I'm short. Let me get a little shorter. Okay. So the Mary Caldwell Excellence in Teaching Award is named after our late colleague, the much beloved Professor Mary Caldwell. And as one of Professor Caldwell's former students, I'm deeply honored to have the opportunity to present this award in her name. When the Caldwell Award Committee sat down to review the candidates for this year's award, we looked at each other and we said, how in the world has Kevin Hull never won this award? And then we proceeded to have a meeting that could have been an email because we were all in 100% agreement that he was by far the slam dunk winner. There's my sports media reference. Okay. Thank you. Dr. Kevin Hull began his career as a broadcast journalist. During 9 years as a sports reporter and sports anchor at television stations in North Carolina, he discovered that one of the things he loved most about his job was working with the station's interns, mentoring the next generation of journalists. He had a career epiphany one day that maybe he was in the wrong job. Maybe what he needed to be doing is teaching, working more directly with students in the classroom. He loved broadcasting and taught high school for the next 3 years, but realized that, in his own words, maybe that was not the right audience for me. So he went to the University of Florida, where he earned his PhD, and then took a job here at USC right after finishing his doctorate. This is his 11th year on our faculty. Kevin began in the journalism sequence, taking the skills and expertise that he had honed in his own career and translating them into the classroom. Over time, because he had such a depth of expertise and research in the field, he started creating classes for sports media. And I don't mean any old class. I mean giant lecture courses that fill the second they open for registration. His Sports Media and Society class, which you just saw, and SEC football classes are among the most popular classes in the SJMC, and I would argue at the university. Students clamor to take these classes, not just because of the subject matter, but because his reputation as an incredible teacher precedes him. Through the years, Kevin taught and mentored many students who went on to work in sports media, pursuing successful careers at ESPN, the SEC Network, television stations across the country, and with both professional and collegiate teams. In fact, later this evening, we'll be recognizing one of Kevin's former students. Kevin advocated for and helped create a sports media curriculum that became first a concentration, then a minor, and now a major. A major that has grown so rapidly that just 1 year after it was introduced, we already have 233 sports media majors. If you hear Kevin's name uttered by a student, it is with admiration, respect, and enthusiasm. They love him. They say that his classes are engaging, that he is energetic and entertaining. He brings that broadcaster's voice and presence that keeps their attention. Deep connections in the industry that put his students in the room with very high profile and successful people in sports. And most of all, the really special qualities of being just so down to earth and approachable and real. Kevin's students illustrate his awesomeness far better than I can. Here's what a few of them had to say. You are a fantastic professor, and by far my favorite teacher I have ever had in my life. Your lectures made me curious and helped me fall in love with sports media. This is the greatest professor on campus. There has never been a man who's been more passionate on what he's talking about than in this class. Professor Hull loves his job, and it shows every day, which as a student makes me want to learn as well. Let me chuckle through this one. This is my favorite class of college, hands down. And this was a comment by a student who is not even in the journalism school. I wish I had more time to take every class with Dr. Hull because I've never had a professor care so deeply about the course material. He could be teaching me about rock sediment and I would be engaged because his presentation skills and passion are, all caps, unmatched. Dr. Hull is one of the best professors here at USC and is without a doubt the most fun and engaging professor I have had. You can see that he truly cares about what he's talking about and about his students. And finally, the comment that I believe sums him up best, Kevin Hull is a fantastic professor and an even better person. Kevin's approachability extends not just to his students, but to our faculty and staff as well. He is a wonderful colleague, confidant, and sounding board. He has particularly mentored colleagues like me who made the transition from the communications profession into teaching, generously sharing advice, resources, and insight to help us all be better teachers. So thank you, Kevin, for all that you do to pour yourself into our students to prepare them to excel not only in their careers, but also in their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating and welcoming to the podium this year's recipient of the Mary Caldwell Excellence in Teaching Award, Dr. Kevin Hull.
That is heavy. It's very heavy. Thank you, Kelly. That's very nice. So last week I gave a presentation over Zoom to kind of a lifelong learner program at UNC Wilmington. We talked about NIL, which is name, image, likeness, which is the big thing in college sports right now. And Wilmington's really special to me because that's where I was a television sports broadcaster. I grew up visiting my grandparents there. It's a city that's really special to me, and UNC Wilmington's really special to me because I covered hundreds and hundreds of sporting events there over the years. So for them to invite me, it really meant a lot. And the person who organized it is someone who I've kind of casually known for over 20 years. And he wrote me afterwards and he said, "You found your career sweet spot." And that meant a lot to me because he knew me before. He knew me when I was live at the Super Bowl and at the Stanley Cup Finals and at NCAA tournaments and all the cool things that I got to do when I was a sportscaster. But for him to say that teaching was my career sweet spot, it really meant a lot because I think he's right. I say that often to people, that I think I'm doing the exact job that I'm supposed to be doing. But it's not an overnight success, for sure. In fact, Kelly talked about how I was a high school teacher, and I think my first year of teaching high school, those students would be stunned to find out that I'm getting a teaching award. They would not believe you at all because that was rough. And so I owe thanks to a lot of people who got me here today, and so you'll indulge me as I thank some of them. Teaching mentors, I went to undergrad at Boston University, and the late Jim Thistle, he was a news director at all the TV stations in Boston, and then he started teaching, and I remember being in his class thinking, that'd be fun someday, and here I am. And at Florida, Julie Dodd was my advisor. I use things I learned from her every single day in my classrooms and when I'm interacting with students. Norm Lewis, his office door was always open. And students were always going in and out. And I remember thinking, that's the kind of professor I want to be. I want my door always open. And Ted Spiker, he taught sports media classes. And I remember sitting in on his sports media class, and the entire trajectory of my career changed. I was like, I'm going to teach journalism, and that'll be great. And I sat in this sports media class, and I thought, that's a class? You can sit up there and talk about sports all the time? That is exactly what I want to do. And now I've been able to do that. Here at South Carolina, I mean, I could spend the whole period talking about people and everybody who I have to thank. Obviously, Charles Bierbauer, who we're all thinking about tonight, was a major influence for me. Tom Reichert, who has been supportive of me and our sports media efforts since the first day he got here, and I'm so thankful for that. Our school directors, Andrea, Eric, Andrea, Van, and Damien, who I've really enjoyed working with so much, and I want to give a special shout out to Andrea Tanner-Cornegay, who I didn't know anything about South Carolina. I didn't know if I wanted to work here. I didn't know if this was the place for me. But when I was on my job hunt, I met Andrea and I said, I want to work with her. And she's the reason why I'm here. And I don't know where I would have been if she had not been on that search committee, if she had not been the person to interview me. And so I'm very thankful to her and always will be. My office pod mates, Rick and Laura, whenever I go in my little pod of suites, I always see them. Obviously, Kelly and Pierre and all the wonderful people who I just see everywhere. And my sports media folks, very excited to see us growing. Manny, Greg, Kim, Kelly, Tamara. We're building something really great with this sports media program, and it's growing, and I'm so happy to be on the same team with them and to see it growing and to see where we're going. It's going to be really exciting. My family, I have always known how very fortunate I am to have an amazing family and supportive always, whether that's my parents, my grandparents. They were always in my corner, always backed me up when I wanted to be a TV sportscaster and didn't look like that was going to work out, and I was unemployed for a little while. They still supported me. And then when I said I want to give this up and go into teaching, they supported that. And when I wanted to give that up and go back to school and make no money in grad school, they were like, do that too. So they've always been very supportive, and I'm very appreciative of that. Danielle, who I have to admit, it feels very silly to get an Excellence in Teaching Award when I'm not even the best teacher in my own house. If you've ever had a bad day or a rough day or a stressful day, I invite you to ask a high school teacher, how was your day? You will feel much better about your day. But she's always been there to look over my syllabus and help me through things, and I'm so appreciative of her. And maybe it is cliche, but a big special thank you to the students and some of my former ones here tonight. They're what make this job great. They're what make this job fun. They're what make this job something I want to come to work every day. And I could list hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students that I've taught that are all wonderful, but for me, there's one group that really stands out. And soon after I started, Andrea said to me, all right, you talked about this sports media class during your job interview. We want to put that on the books, and we'll put it in a room of like 40, maybe 50 people, and we'll see what happens. And I said, Andrea, no, I think this class is going to be huge. I think a ton of people are going to sign up. I think she was a little skeptical, which now that I know more about how curriculum works, she was right to be skeptical. But she said, all right, we'll put it in a big room. We'll see what happens. And we did that, and we just put it on the schedule. We didn't really tell anybody. We didn't promote it. We didn't go crazy saying, look at this schedule. Everybody take this sports media class, and we'll see who signs up. And 140 students signed up. None of this happens without those 140 students. Without those 140 students, it would have been like, well, we tried. Sports media, didn't work, no interest. Instead, it was, what's the more classes you can create? What's the next sports media thing? Now we need a concentration. Now we need a minor. Now we need a major. None of that happens without those 140 students. And so I will always be grateful to that fall 2016 class that all signed up, just took a chance on the class, on sports media, and frankly, on me. And so I'll conclude with this. A few years ago, my dad retired from the Mellon Foundation, which is a nonprofit group in New York, and he worked there a really long time. And they had a retirement dinner in his honor, kind of very similar to this, and I was fortunate enough to be able to go. And he gave a speech kind of at the end, and he said he really hoped that everybody in the room could someday be as happy at work as he was. He really liked his coworkers, he really liked his bosses, and he really liked the mission of what they did at the Mellon Foundation. He said one of the best parts of his day was walking from his apartment to the office because he knew he was going someplace really great. He was going someplace where he was going to have a good day with good people and do meaningful work. And I remember sitting in the audience listening to my dad and thinking, I have that. I have that already. I have outstanding coworkers who make this job super fun. I have great bosses who are incredibly supportive of me. And I love teaching. My favorite part of the day is similar to Dad, but instead of walking to work, it's my walk from my office to my classroom. Whether that's just up one floor or whether it's halfway across campus like Damien came for that one day. Because I know that walk, I'm about to go do something that makes me so happy. And I know I'm going to do something that I think my students seem to enjoy too. And this award tonight kind of further shows me that I have, for sure, found my career sweet spot. Thank you very much.